David Morgan, themorganreport.com. Well, this is the MIF Metal Specialist Forum backstage, and I have Andrew Pollard with me from Blackrock Silver. Well, Andrew, it's good to see you again. I think 3 weeks or so has gone by since we did the event, and now we're going to do a little backstage discussion. I think a couple of things I'm going to start with is you're in the Silver State, and you've got some results coming. I think you have a resource estimate coming up. So can you tell us more?
Yeah, well, we've had probably one of the most ambitious exploration programs in the silver industry this year. We've done 80,000 meters of drilling between January and where we sit here in December. And a large part of that drilling is an infill program we're doing to deliver a maiden resource estimate, which is on track right now for Q1 of next year. So, we've been going faster than the labs can keep up. I think we've got something in the order of 30 to 40 drill results waiting to be delivered from the labs, and from there, that's all going to be thrown into the pot that's going to form the basis for our estimate next year. So, lots to look forward to. Obviously, the markets have taken a beating pretty much across the board since then. But I mean, I look at what we've got lined up in the next few months, and I think this is, one last opportunity to jump in with both feet before we drop that resource, because I think, what we have is something very, very unique. High-grade gold and silver in the silver state of Nevada, while the rest of the silver market or silver jurisdictions are seemingly trying to do everything they can to implode around them, Peru and Mexico being a great example right now.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I get the question, I wouldn't say incessantly, but it depends, especially if there's some political type talking about, mining in general, political ease, political speak. And, people should be concerned with their investments and what jurisdictions they're in. So let's go to one we know the most, or I know the most about, and that's Peru. So why don't your comments on Peru with Hoss Shield and what's going on there with these 4 mines that have been shuttered? What you think, let's stick with the facts, then your projections, what you think's happening in the future, and then let's go to Mexico.
Well, I mean, earlier this summer, Peru had their presidential election, and they voted in a very, very left-wing government who was, at that time, he got his support by saying he was going to make foreign mining companies leave 70% of their profits in the country, which obviously scared the markets. Now, since then, he backtracked quite a bit and said, no, he'll play nice with all of the Peruvian mining companies. And keep in mind, Peru is the second largest silver producer on the planet, second to Mexico. So, you started to see these Peruvian companies catch bids again in the market, and silver was doing well again, and everything was going hunky-dory. And then, 2-3 weeks ago, Hochschild puts out a news release saying, oh yeah, no, by the way, they're not going to renew our mining permits for some of our key mines here. And obviously that just sent them falling and brought down a lot of the other Peruvian silver plays with them. I don't know if they're going to follow through with that, or if they're, just looking to maybe grease some palms down there, or whoever they have to appease. But right now I know, it seems like the insane are running the asylum in that case, and that's, one of the largest silver markets on the planet that, might not be getting much more in the way of investment.
Andrew, thank you. I'm older. I'm not sure that makes me wiser, but it does give me more experience. And you already touched on it. Look, I don't know the future, neither do you. My experience tells me it's follow the money. Yeah, we're going to shut down and we're going to pull the permits, and that's all about putting more money in the back pocket of really the politicians. I mean, of course, most people that know me on a fairly deep level from the internet know my political views. So that's my take so far. But now, let's just and thank you for that. And well said, by the way. Let's just move into Mexico and let's talk about what's going on there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest shot across the bow for Mexico was earlier this year when First Majestic changed their motto, which was one country, one commodity for the last 19 years. And they ended up switching that motto to 2 countries, 2 commodities by buying Jarrett Canyon in Nevada. And they subsequently made some investments in us. But most recently, I mean, you saw something similar happen. It was, under the guise of, I think, environmental permits with the case of Fortuna, with their San Jose mine, effectively the government saying that they're not going to renew those environmental permits and absolutely cut Fortuna down, to their knees. They're off about 30%, I think, at last look. And what that is, Mexico is the largest silver producer, and if on the globe, and this mine for Fortuna is the silver in Fortuna Silver. It accounts for pretty much all of their silver production. So, what's that doing when you've got First Majestic leaving the country looking to offset jurisdictional risk? What happens when you've got a company like Fortuna who, just offset some risk by going to Burkina Faso? You've got Hochschild in Peru. Now, and you've got about maybe 60 other pure play precious silver primary stories out there, but they're all in Mexico or Peru, maybe Argentina. They're not going to be attracting that takeout premium, that takeout target that I think we have going for us in Nevada. We're high grade silver and gold. And not only are we in Nevada drilling on both sides of a highway, walking distance to town, but we're on private land. Patented claims, meaning we've been able to move exceptionally fast without having to deal with the federal government on anything down there. So, in the silver space, I think all roads are leading to Nevada at this point and back to the silver state there. And we're showing there's probably a lot more goodness left over from, I guess, what the old time miners left for us.
Very good. And, at the risk of losing some, I would say, credibility, I think I have too much respect in the industry, but kind of to look at the other side of the coin, I'm not going to play devil's advocate. I think I agree with most of what you said. But again, with my experience, I think the general trend is clearly there. So I won't argue that. What I might push back against is, David, is he right? And again, the answer is I don't know. What I do know is there's a lot of momentum in both Peru and Mexico. I also know the politicians, 99.999% of the time, don't know what the hell they're talking about. Yeah. And because of that fact, there will be people with sounder minds and logic that will say, well, we really don't want to ruin an industry that's providing this much to the bottom line of the country. Having said that, I've always been concerned, and that's why I ask others and give my, I've been very clearly straight up with my paid members that, look, you don't want all your silver investments in any one country. That's why I favor some of the top tiers, such as, let's just pick on Pan American or Wheaton Precious Metals, because they're basically a conglomerate and they've got assets all over the world, which reduces your political risk or your jurisdictional risk. Again, I just said, having said that, there is a gentleman that I won't give his name that I've been interfacing with for years that is basically looking at the South American countries, including Mexico, and says, look, silver is probably the most valuable resource on the planet outside of oil. And if you've got to build out your infrastructure, especially going green in the future, consider what your silver is worth really in the long run and what you want to do about it. So it's not a blockade. It's not a, whatever. But look, the idea that these are poor countries is absolutely, completely, ridiculously wrong. These are rich countries with poor people. And why is that? Well, it's because for the most part, I'm not talking about any specific silver mining company, but I'm talking generally speaking, it's because of cheap labor. And that becomes of this predatory capitalism rather than what I consider to be conscious capitalism. So sorry for the rant, Andrew. Certainly please add on or comment on my little sideways talk there.
Yeah, well, I think jurisdictional risk is something that people, they give a lot of lip service to, but then they vote with their money and they sort of just push it away to the side and say, oh, yeah, Nevada's great, or Peru or Mexico or whatever, but look at these drill results. And they get enamored with drill results or something that's got a high IRR or looks quite lucrative. But then, people only start really paying serious attention to the jurisdictional risk once that risk has been called and once you hear the nationalization word or, those sorts of things. So with us, it's certainly going to put some wind in our sails. I think we've got a huge target on our back just because, you've got rule of law in Nevada and we should be able to move this thing forward. But it's something that people don't really value until it's taken away from you. And I think that you're going to see a flight of capital outside of Latin America to try and get what few silver assets there are into solid hands. And I think companies, all the silver primary companies are getting flack from their investors and their boards right now to offset some jurisdictional risk. And I think we're one of the most exciting stories out there right now that's not in Mexico or Peru.
Yeah, full disclosure, we did a full write-up on Blackrock Silver, I think it was 3 months ago. And if anyone that's been a paid member knows, we don't dilly-dally around. You get pretty much a Wall Street quality report. It was very favorable to you, and I own the stock. Having said that, I'd like to mention that I like the way you ended it, and this is my concern. This is geopolitical or philosophical. De Tocqueville, when he came to the U.S., said basically, my paraphrasing, not his exact words, that the reason America prospers so well is because of the integrity. It's because the rule of law, and that we all basically obey, do what we say we're going to do. And this is less and less the case in my, I wouldn't say careful observation. It's so blatant now across the political spectrum, regardless of what country or nation state you're in, which is sad. It hasn't really hit the mining industry, save for some of the, companies that are, pump and dumps, which you don't see nearly that kind of thing like I witnessed when I was your age. I mean, a lot of stuff coming out onto the boards were strictly there for one reason and one reason only, and that was to make the promoters rich. Anyway, I think you've got a great project. You've got a lot of enthusiasm. You've got the right personnel, and obviously you've got a jurisdiction that at this time is safer than some that are questionable. I'll just say that I'm not changing our portfolio from what it is because we have a lot into those regions, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Mexico primarily. But again, I'm consistent. The safest way is big money and big companies, and the big companies are conglomerates that spread out your jurisdictional risk. Really wish you every success. I love being in the Silver State. I've been to the Tonopah region multiple times, and let me just say, as desolate as it looks, I really like it.
Awesome, much appreciated, and would love to have you at the project once we get things really going next year. So appreciate all the support, and let's close out 2021 well on a strong foot.